Well, welcome back to another coffee and a chat. So today I just want to kind of share something from about 30 years ago. I was in Texas, and my first husband and I were supposed to be going to a conference and at this church. Anyway, the conference ended up getting canceled, but we still ended up going. And this pastor that was hosting the conference, he and his wife felt led that the Lord wanted them to kind of give us a private conference. And it was really, in a lot of ways, I think it was very miraculous how everything happened. And definitely, God had a different plan. So while we were there, this pastor and his wife gave us a lot of one-on-one time. And so did other people that were supposed to be leading in this conference. And so they shared different things with us. And I remember this one day the main pastor where we were staying, he was sharing some things with us, and he stopped and he looked at me and he said, it costs to follow Jesus. And I was like, yeah, I know it does. And he goes, no, it costs to follow Jesus. And I'm like, yes, I know it, of course it does. And he's like, no, you're not hearing me. It costs to follow Jesus. And it was really odd that he kept doing that because, I thought, well, of course it costs to follow Jesus. But by the time he said it the third time, I knew there was something even more to it than that. And at that time, I didn't really realize that I was at a point where there were some things that were about to take place that were going to affect me. And for me to stay true to God was going to cost me. It was going to cost me some of the most precious things in my life. And I believe that it was a prophetic moment that the Lord was using this pastor to try to get me prepared. So I had this sense that, yes, something was coming and it was going to be costly in order to keep following Jesus. I didn't know what, but I could sense something was coming. And shortly after that, I was in another church, and the pastor it was during worship, and he was up on the platform. And during worship, he just got up and came back to where we were sitting, and he sat down next to us, and he looked at me and he said, "There's a storm coming. And when you find yourself in the midst of the storm, you're going to feel like you're alone. And it's not going to make sense to you. You're not going to understand what's going on. But the Lord wants you to know that He is in the storm. So don't be discouraged. Just remember that He is in the storm." And that was shortly, I think, after we got back from Texas. And then within just a matter of weeks, a storm hit. And in order to follow Jesus, it cost me. I don't know what all, if it, that it might have cost my husband at the time, but I know it cost me. And it cost me things that were very dear to me. Now, at that time, I felt like I was really having to pay a price. But I know now, as I just even watch the things that are going on in this world and the things that are going on around me, that there is a cost that is going up. We deal with inflation. I went to the grocery store last week, and I was like, okay, a couple more items that had, the price had gone up by more than $1 each. And, gas is going back up where we live. We're about to learn what kind of a a tax hike we're getting on our property tax that's going to be in effect in less than 6 months. We'll be paying a higher property tax, and they're supposed to be letting us know any day now what that's going to be. And it's just everything is going up and up and up, and that's in the natural. And I know that wherever you are in this world, that I'm sure you're experiencing the same thing is inflation, because that's part of what's going on, and that it's a global thing. But spiritually, the price is going up as well. And I know that, I see that at times with different people. Like, there's a more defined line being drawn from those who want to follow Christ and those who don't. And that even within the church or the Christian community, I'm seeing lines being drawn, and some people that are laying it all down for the Lord, and others that are becoming, I don't know, more and more politically correct, trying to follow the things of the world, not be insulting or just trying to be politically correct, to say the things that make people happy. And one of the things the Bible tells us is that in the very last days, that people will want their ears tickled, and there will be those who are willing to tickle their ears. And I'm sure a lot of you understand exactly what I'm saying, but there are certain things people want to hear and things they don't want to hear. And I think the majority of people want to live in that illusion that everything's great, it's getting better, it's going to be fine, we're going to get back to normal any day now. And yet those that can really accept what's going on around them knows that we lost our idea of normal a long time ago. Things have changed, and they're not going to go back. So today, I've been thinking about this a lot, and that whole thing that it costs to follow Jesus. And I just want to read to you out of Matthew 16, and I'm going to read verses 24 through 26. And this was Jesus speaking to his disciples, and it says, "Whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me. For whoever wants to save their life will lose it. But whoever loses their life for me will find it. What good will it be for someone to gain the whole world, yet forfeit their soul? Or what can anyone give in exchange for their soul?" It costs to follow Jesus. It means laying down my life and my agenda and my desires, taking up my cross and following him. It means letting go of my plans in order to follow his. It means not listening to my own voice, but listening to his. And depending on where we live in the world, or maybe anywhere we live in the world, it's going to be true. But already, over centuries, people have literally lost their lives for their faith. And I remember reading about, stories of different Christian martyrs and stuff when I was growing up, and hearing about different missionaries that lost their life. And those were, even though they were true stories, they seemed so far away. Like, that's not something that I would have to be worried about or concerned with, because those things wouldn't happen where I'm at. But yet I think it's something that is definitely going to happen where I'm at. That is going to happen where you're at. If it's not there now, it will be, because darkness and evil will be getting their last hurrah, their last chance. And that means killing the light as much as they can to keep things as dark as possible. So for us to continue to be a follower of Christ can mean that some of us may end up losing our lives for that. Not all of us, but some will. And I don't think that you can say for sure what you will do in any given situation until you're faced with that situation. So I'm just going to say, I hope, I believe that I would give my life, but I don't really know unless that is laid in front of me. I won't know what I would do until I was faced with that. So I'm going to say, I hope that I will be faithful to God to the end, no matter what it costs, even if it costs my very life. It's a heavy thing to think about, but it's reality, and it's something that we need to be aware of, that we need to think about. And even if it's just in how we live our lives, then listening to these words of Jesus Christ, that whoever wants to be his disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross and follow him. Being a follower of Christ is literally being a follower of Christ. It's not just saying, hey, I've joined the club and I'm going to sit here and do my own thing, or do nothing at all. That's good enough. I joined the club. I said a sinner's prayer, or I did this, or I did that. To be a follower of Christ, that's an active thing. It calls for action. It calls for sacrifice. And if I ever start thinking that the cost is too great, that the sacrifice is too much, then I need to remember what Jesus has done for me. See, he gave his life for me, so I need to be willing to give mine for him. He died for my sins, something he didn't do, so that he could pay the debt that I could never pay, so that I can be in right relationship with him and spend eternity with God, so that I can be a follower, a child of God, so that I can have that salvation. He's the one that did all the sacrifice, and he's the one that gave up everything for me. What I've had to give up for him is so small in comparison. So as the price goes up, as spiritual inflation happens, I want to be willing to pay that price, whatever it is. So that's what's on my heart today, is counting the cost and being willing to pay the price, because you guys, it does cost to follow Jesus. Let's keep each other in prayer. I just have this feeling, maybe it's just something that's going to happen in my life, but I don't think so. I just have this feeling that there's a very bumpy ride around the corner. So what's God dealt with me today? Counting the cost, being willing to pay it. All right. I'll pray for you. You pray for me, and we'll all trust Jesus. Okay? I love you guys. I hope that you're having an awesome day. For those of you that have ears to hear and eyes to see and are getting this, it's important. It's very important. So if God's dealing with your heart on these things, pay attention. Talk to him, listen to him, because it is so very important. All right. Well, with that, I'm going to, because it is the next morning. The day ended a ways back, maybe an hour ago, and I need to get to bed. But I just couldn't go to bed without sharing this with you first. So I'm going to head to bed, and whenever you watch this, I hope that it touches your heart and that you hear what God wants you to hear out of it, that you're encouraged because we'll stand together, and maybe we can all realize what an honor it is to pay the price to follow Jesus. All right, you guys have an awesome day. I'll talk to you tomorrow.